All right, good.
Because that was supposed.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for attending today's commission meeting for Tuesday, November 15th. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. I ask Commissioner Roberts to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We got the director back in the house today, so I ask him to lead us in a prayer this morning.
All right, before we start this morning, though, this last month, a lot of things have happened, and we got to keep our people and our friends and our families and everybody down in Florida in our hearts. You know, they took a good hit down there. We know what it feels like. We've been there. We know what it feels like. We know what Katrina did to us. They're going to be 10 to 15 years for a rebuild. So keep them all in your heart and in your family, in your prayers and all. And if you get a chance, if there's something you can do for them, go and help them. Let's go to the Lord. Lord, I thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to serve you. Lord, just ask you to take this commission, give them the wisdom you would have them to use, and do the things that they would do for you, Lord. And let us make the things in your choice, not ours. We ask that you lead this agency and give us the knowledge and the wisdom to do it your way. We ask in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
All right. Moving on, approval of minutes for October 11th, 2022. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Do we still not have those minutes back that we've had hanging next month?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll deal with that next month. Approval of today's agenda. I'll make a motion to approve today's agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor? All right, Mr. Joe, it's all yours.
All right. Well, October was a busy month, and November hadn't slowed down very much either. So, employment contracts, if you can see, we have Dakota Ladner moved into a full-time position, environmental natural resource specialist. Marine fisheries there, Jacob Mickelson, he is a environmental natural resources specialist too, and he's at Lyman. Christy Taylor is a dispatcher with us with Marine Patrol. Melody Chaplin is promoted to environmental natural resources specialist team lead and marine fisheries shrimp and crab. And Brett James is promoted to the environmental and natural resources specialist team lead and coastal resources permitting. So we're able to promote a few people, bring a few up, and I've got a couple of new ones. So looking good, everything so far. Any questions on them? All right, and contract, we have one contract. This was Spat Tech. It's $800,000 to put 925 sacks of oysters in the water. We're still trying to rebuild. We're doing everything we can, and they had some opportunity for us to be able to work this. And I tell you what, I wish I had a picture of them because they were some beautiful oysters that we were able to put in the water. And they were set on, I think it was on concrete, crushed concrete and some other stuff, but it was pretty good, real good. I think we'll get some good use out of it. Anything on the contracts?
Where did those go?
They're going in the western and the eastern Gulf. They're going across. We spread things around a little bit, you know, to make sure these are oysters that are, they're about the size of a $half or something that, you know, with their own shell, and they're going in and they're going to be able to put them, and they'll be spawning. And Eric, Jason, y'all know exactly where they went. I'm not.
I was just wondering if they were spread out on both sides.
Good morning. We've deployed about half of those oysters at this time, and those went to past Marianne Reef. The remainder will go to in the Tongan box
Okay.
in the west.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. And I don't know if it's in my notes. If it is, I'll jump around and get ahead of it. But we are working and we're doing a test. You know, we're trying to figure out what to do with the on bottom oysters, and basically what to do with as far as setting facility, as to whether we need to build one or don't need to build one. We got Machado Group to be able to go in and do a study for us. They come back and gave us their best that they could as far as what it would cost to build one and what it would cost to operate it and what we'd need to do. We're going now and we're looking at it, and the question is there a way to do a hybrid? Is there something else that we could do? Can we do a public-private partnership in something? How are we going to do it? We're open. I tell you, we're still wide open. We don't know. We're just we're trying to get all the facts. There's one thing I like to do is I like to be able to get the exact facts of what's going to happen and have scientific data to back it. And if we can do that, then that's what we're looking at. We're working now, Jason and them, and have been doing a test with Spat Tech, where we're trying to grow oysters there and grow oysters down here in the Gulf and see which one works the best. And we're doing that test, and it's undergoing right now, and it's about finished on that first phase of it. We're going to take the oysters that have been put in the water by Spat Tech and see what they do against oysters that we put in the water and how they grow. And we're going to be able to look at that and see if there's any difference, if there's a big problem there, or if it works about the same. We're looking at a possibility of doing another test to be able to put spat on shell and try to be able to put it out next year and to further do this test program. We're going to find out what it takes. The idea is to be able to get the oysters back into the water. And if you get the oysters into the water, they will take care of the estuary. And that's what we need. And we need that more than we need anything else. Now, obviously, we love to eat oysters too, don't we? And we need to bring some sacks of oysters into South Mississippi and start getting some revenue for the state for that too. So we're working on it. It's a process that's going to take a little while. It's not something you just jump into, but we have a little money set aside through Restore Act to be able to do it. I think we have about 7.3 million left in it, and then we're looking at some other projects and way we could do it. So we'll let you know which way we're going to go as soon as we get a good idea and what kind of answer we think we ought to go with. Any questions on that? Okay. All right, we got some derelict vessels. We got pictures of that? Just to give you an idea, when we got the bill passed in July 1st and went into effect July 1st, we had 66 derelict vessels that we had identified. 46 of those have already been removed. 14 are pending removal, and 6 we have received court orders to remove. So basically, out of the whole bunch, we've got 20 of the 66 left that we're working on. The graph there for the next slide. All right, that one's over in Jackson County. I don't know if you saw that one, but it was a old shrimp boat that had been sitting there in a woman's property for several years, and we were able to move it. Next slide. That's back in Gulfport Lake, and they were a bunch of boats, mainly sailboats, that had been parked on the property there, and we were able to get them all moved. Next slide. That one's over at D'Iberville. And after the last storm and all, there's a lot of things that just happened over there where that area is at, and they're trying to rebuild it, and we're just trying to get all them old derelict boats out of there, so you can see what's there. Next slide. That's in D'Iberville also. Next slide. Hancock County. That was over there by Kendall Marquardt's operation there, and it was about to block the whole channel where they couldn't even get the shrimp boats in and out. So we were able to get that one out. Next slide. and that one's in Hancock County also over at Diamond Head. So we've expended $106,355.80 on it so far, and that's at July the 1st, being able to get rid of it. This was something the legislature asked us to do, and they passed a bill for us, and we were able to make it work, and I think that's turned out to be a good thing for us. Hopefully, we'll have those other 20 out of the water before the end of the year. So we, if anybody has a problem and they find a derelict vessel, they please call DMR, and we can get the information to you, what number to call, and you can just call and find out what. Well, you can always call Marine Patrol Dispatch or anything else, and we can get the information to them.
Joe, just curious, like these ones in Harrison County, Gulfport Lake that you were talking about, it looks like they're floating. Once we move those, where do they go? What happens to them?
We didn't have to move them once we really got to the point where we could do something, because before, unless it was impeding a waterway or spilling some type of fluid, we couldn't touch them. But now they passed a law that we could touch them if it was in the waterway, basically anywhere on the bank. Well, once we did that, the people who owned them decided they needed to do what's right, and it's amazing how people will tell you they don't own that boat, and then all of a sudden they'll go back and get it.
Yeah.
And so that's what we've done. Now, some of them that we're not able to salvage that away, we've just trashed them and put them in some type of a dumpster, and taken them. We have sent some, like the one to Ben, the Captain Ben, the big one. The way we bid that was they could have the boat, and then they could tear it up, and scrap it. And so it was a lower cost to the state to be able to do that.
Okay.
And so it worked out pretty good. We're trying to do every way we can to be able to cut the cost as much as possible, but yet I think what happened when the legislature gave us the opportunity to be able to do this now and then people realized that we were going to fine them, we were going to charge them the cost to move it. They all decided to go move a lot of them themselves, and we moved the rest of them. Now,
That's what I was getting at. If there's a boat that has any kind of value at all, I was wondering if we can sell
Yeah.
that to recoup money.
we would, and that's exactly what would happen. If they had not moved these that you're looking at there, we would have taken them over to a yard and had them pulled over to that point, put them in an auction and sold them. And then the
Good.
money would have went back into it.
Commissioner, the court orders that Stephen's been getting from the court, it specifically says that the department has the authority to make whatever disposition that we deem necessary or appropriate.
Good.
So it can be disposal, storage, whatever. We can even sell it, or use it.
Okay.
The idea is to get them out of the water and off the
Right.
banks.
Yeah.
And so whatever it takes to do that, that's what we're trying to do. We also donated a vessel to the city of Gulfport. We entered an MOU with them and Department of Leisure Services there for them to be able to use the vessel in boating events that are going on. It was one that we were about to put into auction because it was taking it out of the fleet, and so we're able to donate it to them. The Wildlife Foundation, if anybody knows what it is, DMR had a foundation years ago, and the foundation is no longer in existence. And rather than us starting a foundation back or trying to do anything to that effect, I talked with the governor's office, and they were okay with it. And then I talked to some of the legislatures; they seemed to be fine with it. I talked to Wildlife, and briefed them last week about the possibility of DMR being a part of the Mississippi Wildlife Foundation, and it'll be a saltwater side of it. So we'll have a saltwater foundation part of that, and where we can go in, and there's a lot of good things that can come out of this. We could have some fishing tournaments for like handicap fishing tournaments. We could have children tournaments. We could have a lot of things that could go on. We could have wounded veterans, soldiers. We could do a lot of things that we could do, and then we could also. They will put some money into this situation. We will go out and ask people to donate to it, and to be able, if we're a part of it, and be able to put money into that, and then we'll use that for the natural resources to restore areas, to do things that need to be done. And if we ever have to have like a match fund, it's perfect for that, or a scholarship. We could do scholarships for young men and women to be able to go to the university and study something to do with marine science. We have none of that capability now. And if this works out, that would be great. We should know something shortly. I met with them last week. They all seem very appreciative to do this and thought it'd be a good idea, but you never count your chickens before they hatch, right? So we'll just wait and see what happens. Don't put that in there. She looked at me when I said that. No, don't put that one in there. All right. So, any questions on the foundation? The other thing is Go Mesa, we're working it. We have a list right now that's gone to the governor. We're looking at it, and the governor's office is looking at it, and the governor. And hopefully to be able to spend somewhere close to around $50 million this year in Go Mesa funds. So we'll know something as soon as he has a chance to go through it. He's very busy right now trying to get budgets and other things done, but we'll see where we're at. Just to give you an idea of meetings, October the 16th, we had the Gulf States Marines Fisheries meeting in San Antonio. And then we had October the 20th, we had the GOMA, which is Gulf of Mexico Alliance in the Gulf Shores. The 24th, we had the Gulf of Mexico Fishery Management Council here in Biloxi. And then October 31st, we was at the National States Directors Meeting in San Diego. And I tell you what, we met with, I got a great opportunity to meet with Janet Court, who is over the marine fisheries for NOAA, in 2 of those meetings. And we got to sit down and talk in depth on a lot of things about Mississippi. She is a former state director out of Rhode Island. She understands us. As I told her, we were talking one day at lunch, and I told her, I said, Janet, and I was explaining to her about all the things about the Bonnie Carey and how long it's taken and what it's doing and everything else. And she's like, yeah, I know it. And I asked her, I said, if it was your state, would you be upset? And she said, yes. And she said, I wouldn't. And she said, I understand exactly where you're coming from. She understands us. That is good. And she's going to try to fight. She's trying to streamline the process for that. That's going to be one thing she's going to do. Hopefully she'll streamline it and we won't have to, it needs to be similar to everybody. And, it's not just Mississippi's having this problem. The fishery disasters in Alaska or anywhere else is having the same problem. So we need to streamline this and have a set way of doing it, and the amount, and having set questions that need to be answered and how they're done. And she is agreeing with that 100%. So that's a great deal. We hope that that'll work out. And it was just a great meeting. She enjoyed her time. She was here on the Gulf Coast for a couple of days, and she enjoyed her time here. And I think that she'll come back and spend some more time with us. With that, sir, is there anything else I need to, on the agency that y'all need to know about that I'm missing here? All right. Processors update. Tracy, I think we're good. We got great news on this, right?
Yeah, so as you know, applications, we stopped accepting those August 16th. We received approval from the USDA for our payment plan. As of October 31st, all the processors who are eligible have been paid.
Good deal. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
All right, and Bonnie Carey, we're still, as I said, we're trying to beat that horse. It said it went to OMB. OMB sent it back to NOAA. NOAA sent it back to us. We answered the questions. It went back to OMB. So let's see what happens. We try, and I'm not going to make any kind of projection on when it's coming. So it just be a guess. Okay. Actions updates from prior meetings.
Okay, at the October meeting, the commission recommended and the director approved the state saltwater youth finfish record for conventional tackle for Rhodey Arms, black tip shark, 58 pounds, 6.4 ounces. And they changed the date of the December commission meeting from December 20th to December 13th at 9 o'clock.
Okay, any questions?
And we still have the August meeting minutes, and we'll do that next month.
All right. And we're going to start the Rhodey Arms Museum somewhere around here, but
He's not on there.
he was.
He's not on there today. So we missed a month with him.
I know, but he's on there
He was
last
on
month.
Last month.
Yeah, well, I think he must have to do something in school or something. All right, but anyway, that's all I have, is unless y'all have questions for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Commissioners, we got anything to report today? No, sir. All right, Chief. we're gonna turn it over to Marine Patrol. Oh,
Hey, good morning. So delivering for Colonel Wilkerson, who couldn't be here today. So good morning, Director, Commissioners, Ms. Chestnut. Hopefully you've had a chance to review the Marine Patrol report for last month. You'll notice that our numbers pretty much stayed the same except for our stops. That was up quite a bit. The recreational traffic and obviously the commercial traffic's picking up a little bit. So Marine Patrol remained active. We had a total of 60 citations for last month. And if you have any questions on any of them, I'll be happy to address.
anything? Thank you.
All right.
Y'all
thank
keep
you.
up the good work out
Yes, sir.
there. All right, Coastal Resources Management, James Davis.
Good morning. Here we go. This is just an annual update from Coastal Preserves for 2022. For invasive species control, we have giant and common salvinia. We've made 78 spray missions with about 390 miles of waterway covered in 20 different waterways. Giant apple snails. We have captured 26,800 snails, removed 37,800 egg masses, and surveyed about 5,600 miles of shoreline. We've removed 446 hogs have been killed on coastal preserve sites. That includes helicopter gunning and trapping. And then we've also controlled Kogan grass, tallow, Cherokee rose, climbing fern, and privet on 8 coastal preserve sites. We've done 12 miles of trails mowed, maintained, and cleared. We've cleared about 14 acres of pine forest within 3 preserves. And then outreach activities include a booth at the Invasive Species Awareness event at the aquarium, summer camp talks on Deer Island, and then conversation talk within Gulfport School District on preserves and conservation. We've acquired approximately 980 acres in Bay St. Louis this year. We've planted 2,000 pine trees on Deer Island BU sites. And future projects include prescribed burns, timber harvest, larger scale invasive species treatments, and updated kiosk on our trail preserves with trails. Any questions?
Yeah, where do I sign up to help y'all out with the helicopter shooting on the hogs?
That's through USDA.
I'm available anytime. Just call me.
If you need somebody that can actually shoot, though, let me know.
You know,
Thank you.
maybe we ought to get with wildlife and just have a hog killing one day, you know, and see if they want to come down and sponsor something, have one. But
Works for me.
it's trying to get rid of those, and we spend quite a bit of money every year just trying to keep control of them. And I asked Jennifer the other day where they go with them, and they, you know, she said that they feed them to alligators. Is that right?
Yeah, they take them. The ones trapped are taken to a alligator farm.
Yeah, and feed them to the alligators. They can't leave there alive. They have to take them all out, and they can't take them out alive out of the area. And so then they take them and feed them to alligator farms. And I'm like, all right.
I tell you, a lot of people don't realize how much damage those things do.
Yes.
Oh, I was over in Florida this last week in Eglin Air Force Base. I went over to the golf course and I said, you got both of them up. And they said, well, we got half of the falcon and all the eagle. But I said, what happened to the other half of the falcon? They said they hogs eat it up.
Yeah.
And I went, I'd have me a hog killing, you know.
All right. Thank you.
Great work. Thank you. All right. Permitting, Jennifer Wilder.
Good morning. I'm going to be presenting a permit request by the DMR's Beneficial Use of Dredged Material Program. The location is in the Mississippi Sound, 7 miles south of Pass Christian and 5.5 miles west of the western tip of Cat Island. It is presently located in the General Use District, and the agent is Anchor QEA. The applicant is requesting to fill 900 acres of unvegetated water bottoms. They plan to dredge 917 cubic yards from inside that footprint to create a containment berm. They're then going to overlay that sediment with 528,000 cubic yards of armored stone. The berm that will be created will be 5 feet at mean lower low water. The crest width is 15 feet, and the berm base is varying in width based on the design that's necessary to a maximum of 135 feet. Once this is created, the point is to take the dredge material that we receive to construct marsh. And once the marsh is created, we're expecting it to range in minus 0.5 to 3 feet of below mean lower low water. And the applicant is requesting a 10-year permit. Here you can see the project location in relation to the Gulf Intercoastal Waterway, past Christian, and then the western tip of Cat Island. This is a cross-sectional diagram showing the containment berm after the placement of the dredge material in the middle. The proposed project is allowable within the general use district, but the applicant is requesting a change to the coastal wetlands use plan for the footprint of the project to special use district S6 for restoration and enhancement areas. They're justifying that with Mississippi Admin Code Title 22, Part 23, Chapter 7, Section 105.06.01 and 105.06.02, stating that there's a significant public benefit, impacts to public access, and adverse environmental impacts have been minimized. The general public and governmental entities were notified of the project, and a public hearing was held. They are also requesting a variance to the coastal program for Title 22, Part 23, Chapter 8, Section 114.01, which states that permanent filling of coastal wetlands below the mean high tide line because of potential adverse and cumulative environmental impacts is not authorized. Justifying it with Title 22, Part 23, Chapter 8, Section 118.04, that states impacts to coastal wetlands would be no worse than if the guidelines were followed. This is based on the creating of 820 acres of marsh habitat, and that we will be supplying a beneficial use site to the western Mississippi Sound. The public notice ran in the Sun Herald as required by law, and a public hearing was held on October 19th. No comments were received from DEQ or Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, and Archives and History and the Secretary of State's office had no objections. The staff conducted a thorough evaluation of the project based on the decision factors and in accordance with the Mississippi Coastal Program, and based on those findings found that the project is consistent with the coastal program because it serves a higher public purpose. I just stated the 820 acres of marsh habitat that will be created and the beneficial use site in the western Mississippi Sound. Staff request a motion that the commission recommend to the executive director to approve the requested variance, approve the use plan change, and to approve the permit as requested. Questions?
So we're essentially looking at building an 800-acre island right there.
Yes, essentially, yes. So
That's
it'll be a-
exciting. I like that.
It's the old Pelican Key.
Yeah.
You know where Pelican Key
Yeah.
was years ago? It's the old Pelican Key, and it's basically rebuilding it. And, you know, one of the things too, there's gonna be like, little channels in it to where the fish can come in and out of it. So it's not gonna just be a bermed area, just one thing. There'll be, it'll be great for the estuary. A lot of fish will go in and out of there and fish, you know, and feed off of it. It will be a fantastic deal. I do have one comment that came from FJ Ike, and FJ sent me something, so if I could, I would like to read that real quick, if that's all right. And it says, as Government Relations Committee Chair for Coastal Conservation Association, Mississippi, unfortunately, I will not be able to attend the meeting Tuesday. I do note that G2A on the agenda that has raised my interest. have we ever used the Mississippi Sound for beneficial use disposal of dredge material? Can we recall when the TCA, if the issue had moved forward by the Corps of Engineer? I don't know what he meant, but anyway, objected to a disposal area dredge around Pascagoula Ship Channel, and it said to be widened and deepened. I assumed that over an average of 900 acres, the material will be widely scattered, but such material will likely impact something beneficial to recreational anglers in the area as extensive. Let's see what I have a competing. Anyway, he's talking about he's got something to do. But anyway, his idea is, the question is, have we ever used the Mississippi Sound? And have we ever used the Mississippi Sound to do dredge material? Can y'all answer
Jared.
that question? If we have, and where? Round Island is considered the Sound. That was a question I had. Wasn't sure. And we also use the area around Deer Island, and so I just wanted to make sure that just wanted to clear those records. If those are the two I can think of, is there anything else that y'all know of? Yeah. But okay, sorry about that, sir. Just wanted to put that on record.
That's good.
I got a quick question. Is the so that's 800 and some odd acres. The perimeter shows they'll build the berm and then it'll have a riprap and armor stone. Is that going to be around the entire perimeter of the project? And
They're
I get
gonna-
that it'll have tidal access.
It
and
will. There are
locations.
going to be breaks in it as they get closer to actually implementing the plan and looking at the engineering of it all, is when they're going to determine how far apart those are going to be. But there will be breaks to allow the tide and the fisheries to go in and out.
Now so I see we're filling this with dredge material. Where's the material coming from, and what are we going to deepen?
Okay, so state law actually says that if more than 2,500 cubic yards of state-owned water bottoms are dredged, and that the material is suitable, it has to go through rigorous testing, that has to be used for beneficial use. And that is where these kind of things come from. We see them a lot in, like, when counties do dredging of, maintenance dredging of channels, and things like that. Oh, excuse me.
So usually she's correct on most of the sites. We fill them opportunistically over the 10-year permit. This site, in general, if there's an expansion of the Gulfport shipping channel, an expansion, a widening and deepening, that's when we're not just going to go build this site like we do with the other ones. This one, if that happens, we'll need somewhere to put it just because it's pretty capital intensive. So Round Island, we build those and fill them opportunistically. This one will be for
How many cubic yards of beneficial use would it possibly use?
This is Jared's estimate, about 15 million. But these sites seem to take a lot more than, actually that's close to the engineer's estimate, not Jared's estimate. I think it'll take more than the engineer's estimate, because these sites seem to, once they consolidate and dewater, they seem to take a lot more material than they estimate.
One other thing this thing does, obviously, and the fisheries part could probably talk about this, but anytime that we rebuild that area, we can help change the salinity in the sound in the summertime. Because of that, the amount of salinity coming in from the salt water coming in from the south and the summertime, it can help in that area to be able to change that salinity and help break it down. That's one of the things that's happened to us over the last 20, 30 years, 40 years, whatever it is. But, the island's breaking down. And because of that, there's more salt water coming into the sound, which is doing a lot of damage, especially with the oyster drills and all like that, being able to get the salinity so high. And then obviously we need the fresh water coming north that we don't get. But there's a lot of things that we can work at. Anytime that we can do any of this, I think it helps it. That's what I've found. I know Rick's not here, but Trevor, any of y'all can speak on that? Matt, Trevor, I see Matt now. I didn't see him back there. Tracy or whatever.
As far as an impact to the fishery and everything else, I mean, yeah, I think the added breakwaters that have increased the marsh edges to the western sound have obviously shown a positive benefit. And anytime you can increase the amount of marsh, you increase the amount of recruitment, so should have a positive impact on multiple species that we manage.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna need a motion in a second, but I am going to abstain from this because of previous work that I've done and potential future work.
I'll make a motion. We approve the recommendation.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank y'all very much.
Miss Leslie, Finance and Administration.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Leslie Brewer, CFO. I'll be presenting the financial statements for the month ended October 31st, 2022. At the end of October, our state revenue was $3.9 million. Our agency revenue was $15.5 million. Our state net income is $1.8 million, and our agency net income is $7.2 million. We did get our Tidelands funding in October, so that's reflected there. After 4 months of 2023, we have 94.2% of our operating budget remaining, and our Tidelands budget is at 91.3%. Anybody have any questions?
No, ma'am. Thank you. Sandra Slater? Sonia, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Everybody does it. I'm Sonia Slater, Tidelands Coordinator, for those of you who don't know me. I only do this once a year, so I don't get to meet everybody. But I'm going to give you the update on our 2023 Tidelands funding cycle and our application cycle for 2024. We're going to start accepting applications for our 2025 cycle May 31st of 2023, and we should have that whole cycle completed by December 2024. If y'all have any questions, it's the same cycle we do every year. In 2024, we received $34.9 million in requested funding. Of course, we don't get that much Tidelands funding, but it's nice to get that many applications, 94 applications in total. We had 50 public access applications and 44 managed projects applications. Our appropriated funds for 2023 from the legislatures were $12.4 million. When we awarded our public access funding, it was awarded in the House bill, a total of $7.2 million. It was divided up between the cities, counties, and some of our nonprofit agencies. We had 7 Board of Supervisor projects and 16 city projects and 2 miscellaneous projects. Our managed projects for FY23 have been awarded through this agency, through the director. We were allocated in the House bill $3 million for managed project funding. We awarded 19 MDMR in-house projects to, and we awarded, well, actually, we just did MDMR for 2023, and we had our bond payment, and we were also given $1 million for prior year award expenses. Any other questions?
Y'all got anything? No, ma'am. Thank you. Miss Charmaine?
Good morning, Commissioners, Director Spraggins, Ms. Chestnut. The Mississippi Department of Marine Resources had 17 media mentions since the October MACMR meeting. News items included the beach outfalls in Harrison County. Marine Patrol presented with the top agency award for Operation Dry Water at the annual National Association of State Boating Law Administrators Conference. It was held in New Hampshire. And the $10.3 million Tidelands check presented by Secretary of State Michael Watson. Marine Patrol participated in the Long Beach Police Department's Night Out Against Crime on October 22nd and Career on Wheels at Pass Road Elementary School on October 26th. The agency sponsored dinner events for the stakeholder engagement meeting at GCRL on October 13th, the State Personnel Board's training session held on the coast October 19th, and the Gulf Council reception on October 25th in Biloxi. Seafood Technology Bureau Christina Broussard, shellfish scientist Alicia Caron, and finfish scientist Megan Fleming presented the poster Cyanobacteria Bloom in the Mississippi Sound 2019 at the 11th U.S. Symposium on a Harmful Algae, which was held October 23rd through the 28th in Albany, New York. New MDMR HAB team member, seafood technology scientist Raul Anzola joined the agency representatives at the nationwide symposium, where the theme was Science to Support Solutions from Shore to Shore. An oyster harvester training class was held since last month's MACMR meeting. 5 participated in the class, with 4 attending in person and 1 virtually. The Shellfish Bureau's Madison Parker, Ellen Coffin, Jean Cossey, Kat Glover, Will Larson, Alicia Caron, and the Shrimp and Crab Bureau's Melody Chaplin and Nick Moreno assisted with the Deer Island cleanup on October 15th. The Shellfish Bureau held oyster harvester training for sessions for the electronic trip ticket app Vessel here at the Bolton Building. There were 6 participants on October 19th and 1 participant on October 25th. DMR's IT co-hosted the 10th annual Mississippi Geospatial Conference at the USM Long Beach campus in October, where Karen Clark presented on the in-house mobile solution developed for the Apple Snail project. The IT team attended the Public Safety UAS conference at the Mississippi Fire Academy on November 2nd, where Karen gave a presentation on DMR drone activities. IT attended Esri's Gulf Coast User Conference November 9th and 10th, where Karen presented again on the in-house mobile solution developed for the Apple Snail project. At the November 10th Mississippi Restoration Summit, IT joined the University of Mississippi Center for Biodiversity and Conservation Research to demonstrate the Gulf Sea Life Citizen application currently being developed. Throughout October at the Grand Baynier, Jennifer Cumbus taught St. Martin gifted 5th and 6th grade students about fire ecology using an engaging activity to demonstrate fire on the Pine Savannah. 62 homeschool parents and children from George and Jackson counties had a field trip at Grand Baynier, where they kayaked the bayou, learned about the importance of pine savannas, and explored the Near's Interpretive Center. Sandra Bilbo, Jennifer Cumbus, and Brianna Andrews presented education programs available at Grand Baynier for students and teachers at the Mississippi Science Teachers Association Conference in Biloxi. Margot Posen, Jonathan Pitchford, Michael Archer, and Amanda Free attended the NERA annual meeting in Seattle, Washington. Sandra Bilbo and Jennifer Cumbus attended the My Two Boots outreach event held at Gaucher High School, where they saw 146 sixth graders from the Pascagoula-Gaucher School District and taught the students about fishes found in the Mississippi Sound. October 17th through the 22nd, Grand Baynier hosted an agency booth at the Jackson County Fair, where 2,349 visitors stopped by. And in November, the Grand Baynier hosted Mobile Christian School 7th graders for a field trip. Students explored the upland and estuarine habitats and learned how to throw cast nets. Dr. Aisha Gray presented to a group of marine conservation biology students from the Dauphin Island Sea Lab and University of South Alabama and gave them a tour of the Grand Baynier's facilities. Avery Beck and Jennifer Cumbus participated in an outreach event at the Biloxi VA. Homeschoolers from George County participated in a field trip at the Grand Baynier, exploring habitats around the building, and Jennifer Cumbus and Sandra Bilbo also kayaked with MGCCC STEM Club on the same day.
That was a mouthful.
Busy month for everybody. And this week we also have a lot of events with P2P, or Pathways to Possibilities, several school events. So
When is that calendar coming out?
the calendar should be out probably the second week of December.
Okay.
We always usually have it ready mid-December.
All right, great. Thank you. All right, Trevor, we've all been waiting for it. Give us some good news.
Yeah, we've got some good news on this one.
Looks like it.
All right, so good morning, Commissioner. So I'm gonna give y'all the latest update from our spotted sea trout stock assessment. So it was completed in early 2022 by the stock assessment panel, and it's comprised of our staff here at DMR and also the Gulf Coast Research Lab. Dr. Robert Leaf is still running these assessments. It completed internal MDMR review and was sent for a peer review to multiple state colleagues, 2 in the Gulf and 1 on the Atlantic. And then the final analysis and edits were completed in October 2022. Right now, it's still these age structured assessment models are still presently accepted on a peer-reviewed level, and models are identified as the best available science when they are able to run and complete. This assessment was completed using SS3, which is widely used in the CDAR, the federal assessments, and for the federally managed species. And this model included a reevaluation of harvest estimates for 2016 due to findings during examination of the time series. So that's the largest change that we had in this assessment. If y'all, I don't know if y'all ever looked at the estimates or anything, but essentially all this work we've been doing with red snapper really illustrated how our estimates are patterned and how some variables might lead to large estimates of harvest during times where we shouldn't see them. This happened in 2016 for spotted sea trout. We had a large shore-based estimate of harvest for the species and a large private recreational harvest that occurred in the months of November and December. And going back through and reviewing the data, we realized that that wasn't actually reflective of what the fishery was doing at the time. So we used an average from 2015 to 2017 to help bring that estimate down and basically say that the fishery was operating as normal through those years. So that was the largest change from previous assessments. So our percent SPR, which is the management goal that was assigned to this stock by the CMR, 20% was the goal. As you can see, the change in the time series has actually increased the SPR. The pattern still remains the same, and the what we see in the retrospective pattern remains the same. But the good news is right now we're above our management goal of 20%. But I'll show you there's still some things to look at here. So we see shifts in relative abundance and fishing pressure, and that's what helps drive our mortality estimates. And all these drivers lead to fluctuations in our percent SPR values. So we see the 5-year average of 22.1%, the terminal year is 20%. So we're in the goal that we want. But if you look at the figures on the right, while we see those positive trends in SPR, what you do see is a drop in the index of abundance. That's the figure on the top. So you can see that as that index is dropping, we also have a drop in our harvest estimates at the same time. And that's what's keeping that SPR level steady. Now, we talked in past years about the effect of the large freshwater events that might be taking place here. And it's something we have to continue to look at, essentially to see if there's been some impact to recruitment, mainly in the Western Sound, as many of y'all have probably seen. And the best way for us to do that is continue to monitor that index of abundance up top. So we illustrated kind of the concerns we've had with the patterns of harvest that are coming for the recreational fishery. And while they might not be as consistent as what we see, but that's the reason why we conduct our fishery independent sampling and derive that index of abundance based on that. Another positive thing we've done since the last time we reported an assessment, through SURF funds provided from the Gulf States Marine Fisheries Commission, we were able to develop a small trawl and seine program that now spans across the state in all 3 counties. And the goal of that is to start being able to develop a independent index of recruitment or even a juvenile index of abundance so that we can see when these impacts come from the various events, we can pick up that recruitment the year after, not wait until we see the adult population and backcast what those recruits might be in the past. So in summary, the pattern observed in SPR in this assessment is overall positive, but we will continue to examine that index of abundance in the coming years. The current 20% SPR target will likely continue to maintain or increase the spotted sea trout population at current harvest and effort levels. The peer review was positive, with multiple constructive comments on how to improve our data compilation and the assessment model. I mean, there's states that have been running this model for longer than we have, and there's always different things to learn and different inputs to be able to throw in there. And staff have recommended status quo for this fishery as the impacts from recent years' events, Bonnie Carey, large amounts of freshwater, everything else, must continue to be evaluated. So we're actually going to be talking with Dr. Leaf here pretty soon, trying to compile that new index for the coming year once we get all the data finished and QA/QC'd to see kind of where we're at for this year. So overall good news, but we're going to try to keep an eye on it. With that, I'll take any questions.
the only one that pops to mind, and I like the size limit where it's at, but I know a lot of people are going to be asking the question with this latest assessment, are we looking at moving the size limit?
Saying, given that we're above our management target, dropping the size limit or increasing the size limit?
Dropping it.
Yeah, so I've heard it from both sides, right? As a fisheries manager, you hear the complaints from both sides. I'm only catching 14-inch fish, or, I'd like to see a slot limit in place or anything else like that. I think given what we've observed in the fishery, especially with that drop in the index of abundance, it's a little too early to start making that call, even though we are above that management target. It'd be best if we see a continued positive trend in this fishery, especially in the index. If we see that over a few years, then that discussion can be had right here in this room. And I think that's the best way to go about it. But for right now, I think it's best if we keep right where we're at and try to see where this fishery is going to go after those impacts in 19 and 20.
I like it. Thank you.
Quick question, Trevor. The way I'm reading this, we actually had a slight drop, about 0.5 in the last assessment for last year.
In the SBR?
SBR percentage?
Yeah, so that's one of the things we've presented on in past presentations of the assessment. The terminal year when it comes to these is always a little bit tricky. Sometimes you'll see this huge jump. Sometimes you'll see a big drop. And that's one of the reasons why we presented the 5-year average of the SBR, that long-term trend of what you observe. And that's really what we look at across the board in the index of abundance too, is we want to look at the trends over time, and looking at those multi-year averages help alleviate some of those small scale impacts that you might see.
Yeah, if I can too, a couple of things. All right, number one, Louisiana, I think, just voted to change theirs. And I'm not sure if it's 13 inches or 13 and a half, but I keep getting conflicting information, but I think it's what they're working on. And they're cutting from 25 to 15. So that's going to be, they see a need to change some things also. I think what Trevor and them are doing is a great idea of being able, let's get a couple more years of this and let's see the data. If it keeps going up, then we can readdress it and do what we need to do. And the idea is those 14-inch fish are breeding fish, right? And so that helps our stock assessment. Other thing we did, we met with over at GCRL the other day, and we had a stakeholders meeting with USM and us, and talking about what we can do with speckled trout. And one of the things that have come up is a possibility that we're losing the amount of, in other words, in the bay areas, they're not catching the ones they used to catch, and what's going on with that. And one of the issues that we were looking at, obviously the Bonnie Carey had some effect, because a lot of those little fish and everything else feed off of the oysters and the estuary around it. Well, that's not there until we get it rebuilt, so that's an issue. So what we're looking at is, Trevor, you or Matt could probably talk about this, but we're looking at putting it, basically growing some speckled trout. We're already doing that. I think we released 150,000 this year, fingerling types, and in the 2 bays. We're looking at doing more than that, probably close to double that. Is that right, next year? Is what we're looking at in the fingerling size. And then out of that, we're looking at trying to grow, we're trying to hold back like 15,000 of the fingerlings and try to grow about 1,500 of them to around 8 inches and then turn them loose at that size in. And that takes about 10 months, I think is what it is for that to grow out. But we met with USM and they think they can grow some the same time. So we might be able to, if I can afford it, but if it's not too expensive, to be able to put 3,000 plus in the water next year, and of the ones about 8 inches long or something like that. The idea is to try to put something in there and see what it takes. And then we can not necessarily tag the fish, but we can mark the fish in certain ways to where we can be able to tell whether or not that these fish are, where it's helping. And Trevor, you got anything on that?
Yeah, so I'll remark on the thought process to grow them out to a larger size, right? It's kind of twofold. One, you curb the large scale mortality of throwing a small fish into a new environment. So you keep them in and raise them to a larger size to try to, alleviate some of that mortality when you release them. The second one is that those fish will be large enough, like the director said, to be able to have an external tag, whether that be, visible implant, elastomer, dart tag, fin clips, all of it we've kind of talked about. But the goal is to, have large enough fish where we can tag and the anglers can visibly see whether that fish was raised in a hatchery or whether it's a wild fish, and they can report their catch back to us so we have some measure of success of the fish that were going in and then contributing to the adult stock and the fishery as a whole.
So you said holding back 15,000 to hopefully raise 1,500. Is there that much of a mortality rate whenever you're trying to grow them?
Yeah, they eat each other pretty quick.
Yeah, they eat each other. There's a lot of switches in feeding and everything else. I'm not a hatchery guy by any means. But yeah, there's a lot of work when it comes down to it, and I think a lot of fish die to make a few fish.
I know Matt is back there. Yeah, Matt's been working at the hatchery a lot. That's on stuff with that. So he might can tell us some of it.
Currently about 49 to 50. Kind of experiment, we've been growing them out. I've seen how much. Roughly get that 1,500 fish.
Yeah. That's always a talk and a concern. Where are y'all releasing them at?
We had two releases, 75,000 each.
Mm-hmm.
Never been able to track any kind of return. So saying that we put 150,000 in or whatever, but we don't have a way for any type of return. So what we're trying to do is get some type of return on these fish. I mean, just to see if they are contributing to the overall population. And right now, our belief or our theory is we should grow them out to a larger size, so we can track them and we can mark them, so we'll know what's going on. The fingerlings, there's just nothing we can do except just keep dumping them in the water.
Yeah.
One other thing we're also doing is working with GCRL to be able to do a flounder and do some grow out. Matt, if you got just a second on that.
Yeah, we're probably going to go sometime in the next few weeks. We've set up 3 tanks at the Lyman Fish Hatchery. They have some broodstock flounder over in Alabama that they're looking to get rid of. So what we're going to do is we've set these 3 tanks up for them, working closely with the research lab. We're going to procure those flounder. I think it's around, I want to say it's 45. We're going to put 15 in each tank and see what it takes. The hatchery or raising of flounder is a daunting task. It is quite difficult from what they tell me. And like Trevor said, I'm the same way. I'm not a hatchery person. I'm trying to learn. But Michael and the guys at the research lab say it's going to be tough. But our thought process is we've kind of written the book on spotted sea trout. We can put it up on the shelf. If we need it, we can get it back down and we can we can start raising them again if needed. And we're going to continue to raise them on an annual basis because it's a cookbook for it now, so it's fairly easy for us to do. But there are other species out there that do have a need, and we need to start trying to write the book on some of these other species for the future. So our next one is going to be flounder, and we're going to see what we can do with that.
Thank you. Y'all need to make a motion, Sandy. Staff had recommended a status quo. Do they need to make a motion to accept that?
I don't think so. If there's no changes, we're good.
All right. Thank y'all.
You got me for one more. No roadie. He must, like you said, he might have a class project, something, I'm sure he'll double it next month.
Send
All
us
right.
2 next month.
So we got an all tackle fishing record. It's a dog snapper, which is something we don't see very often. Let Janice Joku. Old record was 15 pounds. The new record is 24 pounds, 2.4 ounces. The angler is Mr. Mark Kleinpeter. That is a picture of the fish. And there is the angler with the fish. We just need a motion to new state record.
Wow. Yeah.
That's a
Dawson.
spearfish, right?
Mm-hmm.
All tackle record.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
make the
spearfish,
motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mhm.
That's great. All right. Nothing. Do we have any other business today? No public comments?
None that I have, and just to tell you though, Mark was as a retired colonel from the United States Air Force.
Oh, well, that's great. No other business, no public comments. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
You're 1 minute late.